how you can start your first research paper. In this lecture series, I'll be talking about what are the issues and challenges that are faced by the beginners in the process of writing a research paper. To start a research paper, one should know some important things related to research which will help them to write a research paper. Now, this is a complete list of all the important sections that you will have in a research paper. For this thing, I would just like to tell you that try to read some good research papers, because when you don't follow any good research paper, you may tend to learn something which is not standardized. So, if you read some good journals and good index research papers, you will get to know that these are the important sections in a research paper. In this slide, you can find out that the first is related to title, then abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, analysis and results, discussions, implications, conclusions, limitations, references, tables and figures. In the coming videos, I'll be telling you that how you can work on each section of a research paper. It has been observed that most of the researchers make mistake of writing different sections of research paper in the order that they appear in the final paper. What I mean to say that people start writing a research paper right from number 1, where they decide the title of the paper, then they write the abstract, introduction, literature review, and so on and so forth. But one thing I would just like to tell all the beginners of the research paper is that the order of writing a research paper is not the way they appear in the final paper. All the sections are not written in this order. You may say that title is decided first, then you can talk about the abstract and introduction and so on. But practically, all these sections, they don't follow after each other. It is up to the researcher how they want to write. I want to say that there are some sections that may follow, like you cannot write the methodology before writing the literature review, and you cannot do the analysis before the methodology is decided, and other sections of the paper as well. But I want to tell you about the title and abstract. There is a lot of confusion among the researchers about the title and the topic. What I tell my students is that you decide the topic, not the title. And I just suggest my researchers and my students to decide about the title of the paper in the end, once they have finalized everything, limitations, conclusion, and everything is done. Then you decide your title of your paper. You can decide your topic. There are two different things, title and topic. They are not same. Title is different and the topic is different. Okay, then talking about the abstract, the best way of writing the abstract is in the last. There are some journals, they ask for your you can say the detailed abstract, but when you talk about most of the journals, they don't ask for the abstract submission. So you should write the abstract in the end, because it includes all the different sections of the paper. Same way we talk about the introduction. Yes, introduction is written, but introduction also needs some of the parts of your recommendations and findings, and you can say even it talks about little research gap and research questions. So you cannot start directly from the introduction as well. For me, literature review is independent. You can do the literature review directly, because it will help you to identify what are the research gap, what are the issues, what are the challenges. You can develop your hypothesis using the literature review. So my understanding is that you should start your literature review, and then you can talk about the methodology, You can talk about analysis, description, discussion sections, implications, conclusions, and limitations, and so on and so forth. So, according to my understanding, you should start your paper from the topic, decide your topic, and then directly go for literature review, and it will help you a lot. Let me tell you, very practical way of writing a research paper. Don't directly go for the title, go for the literature review directly. Okay. So, my advice is that you first decide your topic, as I told you, then you start reading about some of the papers that has been published in similar area or the context, and then you start thinking about your paper. And I have made a separate video for this, that how you can develop a research model, because when you read some of the research papers in your topic, you will come across many different models. You will learn about the introduction, how they are writing, what are the different titles they are using, and what are the different literature review they have conducted, what all are the different methods, how they have adopted the methodology, analysis, results. So you just start reading about your topic, and then you go one by one for different sections of a research paper. You need a very comprehensive understanding of each section, and each section listed here in this slide needs your very serious considerations, because you need to understand that what is the relation of each section in the paper, what is its contribution to the main paper. Because what happens when students they start writing, they don't have any understanding about the methodology, analysis, results, and implications, discussions, and so on. I'll try to make a separate paper for each section of this research paper listed here in the slide. But for right now, I would just like you to understand the basic meaning of each sections. And before you read more about these sections, you should have some prior to starting the research, some understanding about some of the things which I've mentioned in the next slide here. You need to start with the starting with the understanding of Google's one of the very important, you can say, a handle, which is called Scholars. It is a very informative kind of site where you can read about your topic. I'm not talking about the title, but the topic. You can read about the topic. You can search different papers. You can search different publications. You can search about the different researches being conducted in that area. And you can also I should say, you should open the Google's account, your own account. And the Google account, it looks like this. You can this is the Google Scholars, and you can open your own account in Google Scholars. And this is the search bar where you can search your papers or related to your topic and title. So this is very important, and I advise all of you to open your own account in Google Scholars. Next important website is the academia, and this website is very important for all of you to make collaborations and understand about the world of research, where researchers they try to collaborate and start exchanging their new projects and new ideas of research papers. So you have to understand that this is also very important for all of you. You should try to make your account on this website. Another important is ResearchGate, and this ResearchGate is also used for exchanging the thoughts. You can collaborate using this ResearchGate account. You should join this, and you can get new ideas of research paper here as well. Next is your ORCID ID, and this ORCID ID will help you to track your own publications. Just a reminder that I'm telling all these points for you to start your research, because without having ORCID ID, without having the scholars account or academia or researchgate, you will not be fully equipped with the research, or I can say that you this is the standardized method of entering into the research world. Next important point that I want to raise here is related to the reference management. In olden days, what happened? People used to do the referencing, and as you know, different the publication houses, they have different styles of referencing. Some follow APA, some follow APA 6, APA 7, Harvard, or different types of their own referencing styles are there. In Elsevier, you will find a different method of referencing. In Taylor Francis, you will find a different method. So I advise you to learn how to use Zotero, and another one is Mendeley. You should open an account in Mendeley and you should open an account in Zotero. By the use of these accounts, you can not only you can search the research papers, but also you can collaborate, you can make the groups, you can exchange the research papers. Like if there is someone who has the access for the paid journal, you just collaborate using researchgate or academia, and then make the group in Zotero or Mendeley, where you have a topic, and based on that topic you have started searching for papers, and all the researchers who are in the group, they will keep on downloading the papers and sharing it through the Mendeley or the Zotero software. It will help you to develop a very good understanding about the topic, and then you can proceed with the process of your research paper. The next important point is related to the type of research papers, and academically you will find there are around 10 or even more than 10 types of research papers that are listed in Elsevier and in Emerald, where you can decide what kind of paper you are going to submit. But it creates a lot of confusion in the minds of the beginners, and for the beginners I would just like to tell them that you just understand that the research papers are of three types. Let me remind you, this is just my understanding to simplify the research process. The first is the theoretical papers or the essay type papers, and these are theoretical and essay type papers are sometimes called the conceptual papers. Next, I can say they are empirical papers, and empirical papers are data driven papers, maybe qualitative or the quantitative type of papers. And the third one is related to the review papers. And I suggest you that don't start your research journey with the theoretical or the essay type papers. For for the beginners, I feel that you can start with the review papers. Start writing review papers. It will develop your understanding about the concepts, and it will create a good, you can say, your own understanding about that concept and what you can contribute to the theory, what you can contribute to the research and the academia. So, when you start your research journey, you should target with the review papers. And if you have developed some understanding about analysis and doing the reporting of the research results, you can go for the empirical papers as well. Now, in this slide, I'm just trying to give you one idea about the research process. And in this process, there are three steps. First is related to the conceptualization, and you will find some of the points which I have mentioned in the previous slides that will be covered in the conceptualization, and some parts are covered in the report writing, whereas the last one is the submission and the publication. So I'll take this process one by one. First is the conceptualization, and in this process, for the beginners, they should start thinking about the title, and then they should start reading about some of the papers. You can use the Google search, which I told you, Google Scholars, to find out what are the latest research related to the concept which you are going to write. For the conceptualization, you can start searching the papers on Scholars Google, and there is another very important app is there, which is Publish or Perish. Try to download that software also. It will help you with the keywords. You just type the keyword or the title, and then you can search a lot of papers. This is a very interesting software where you can find the history of the topic. Like if you write about service, so a service, this word, it will tell you the history, which is the first paper which has published the concept of service or service marketing. If you are in the human resource, if you say I'll talk about the behavior, employee behavior, so you just type that word and you will find the history of that word completely. Then you can search papers in Scopus, and Scopus is a paid, you can say, subscription, but still you can read some of the abstracts, and they are available free. You can download those abstract, you can read about those topics. Then Web of Science, etc. There are different databases where you can search, but these are the I just recommend my researchers and my scholars to start their search based on Scopus and Web of Science. Well, Scopus is a bigger, you can say, database where you will find more research papers, but Web of Science is rather very, you can say, specific, very high quality, where you will find SSCI, SCI, and SCIE, which is known as popularly as ISI journals. You will find it in the Web of Science. I recommend my scholars to read good papers because it will give you the standardized format of papers. Because when you read some of the papers which are not indexed in good journals or good, you can say, the publications, you may find that there is no consistency, or the flow of the complete paper is not good. So for learning process, once you understand the research process, you can read any paper, it's not a problem. But for beginners, it is very important to read the correct format of the paper, which you will find it in the Web of Science. For learning process, I recommend Web of Science as the base for searching your papers. You can read these papers and try to find out the models, what change you can incorporate, or what new thing you can add in a model. You can, like the theory of planned behavior is there, and there is a model. You can say these are the components of different models. I have made one video about the model development, and when you start your paper, you should base your paper on some of the models and theories. It will help you to get it published in good journals, because it will give you the base, it will give you the area where you can play around and you can talk about. So take some of the good models, good theories, and then you can think of that, okay, I'll talk about the mediation, I'll talk about moderation. I have discussed all these things in a dedicated video talking about model development. You can see that video also and understand. So by just doing this, you will develop a concept, and this will be the beginning of your research. So this is the first step. Second is about, you can say, the next step is report writing. Now, reporting or writing a research paper, when you want to start the writing of a research paper, you have to understand, as I told you in the beginning, you should decide whether it is a review paper or it is empirical paper. You start writing it, and writing different sections of a paper, they are not in the chronological order. They are not written in the way they are mentioned in the previous slides, right? I mean to say that you don't decide the title of the paper and then you talk about the abstract and keywords and so on and so forth. It is not the process like this. What you do, you talk about the literature review, you search some of the models, and then you start writing about that. You don't write directly the paper in the way, in the order which is mentioned in the final published paper. For writing or reporting your analysis and whatever you have done in the paper, you need to search some of the papers, and I told you the relevant websites where you can search papers. You should learn how to search papers also, because it's a technique. The use of boolean like the and or, you can use that. There are many, you can watch many videos that how to search in the Scopus, how to search in the Google Scholars, in the Web of Science. So you should learn how to search that also, and then you can search paper. Referencing is also very important. You should learn the referencing softwares, and you should do the referencing work. It will reduce your efforts in completing your paper. Next is the plagiarism checking software or the access to the Turnitin. It's very important. And what happens when you read papers, you may tend to explain the concept in similar words of already published papers. So if you try to write something differently, you may not get some words to express that, you can say, the process. So it may happen you will get the report from plagiarism checking softwares, and you should try to write those concepts in your own words. And when you do the plagiarism checking, I advise you that you should first use, if you don't have the access to the Turnitin, which is not individually subscribed software or the platform, it has to be from the some of the institution. So you can use any of the free available plagiarism checking software online. You can check that, they are pretty good. You can use paragraph wise, and if you have you can say less than 5% of plagiarism there, so in the Turnitin also it will not come more than 10%, so later on you can reduce. So it's very important to check the plagiarism of whatever you are writing. Then self-citation. For the beginners, I would like to tell that when you have a new paper which you are working on, don't go for too much of self-citation. Try to restrict your citation for less than 5, because many of the journals, they just go for dex rejection immediately as soon as they see more self-citation, means citation of your own papers. So it's a very important point to remember while writing a research paper. Now, at the time of submission and the publication process, it will require your ORCID ID or the account number, which I have told you that you should create. And then, when you decide that you are going to submit your paper, you should try to see the scope of the journal. I have seen most of the time as a reviewer for many index journals. I'm talking about good journals. I don't advise my students, anyone, to publish papers which are in a journal which are not index. Minimum it should be scopus, and then you will find that if the paper is rejected, you may not get any comment from the reviewer, so you don't have any idea why it is rejected. So in most of the cases it is because of the scope of the journal, and in some of the special issues, many time what happens when you submit, you don't give attention to the keywords. I recommend you to use those keywords in your paper title. So, to avoid the DEX rejection, you should have the correct format of the submission, referencing, and then you will not get the DEX rejection. And try to read some of the articles which are already published in the journal where you are going to submit. What I advise my student is, once you are ready with your paper, just sit and search for the journals, write journal, read the scope. Once you find that one of the journal is a good journal where you are going to submit your paper, then you read the papers which are already published in that journal. Try to read that what is written in the introduction, how the abstract is written. Is it a structural abstract or it is in the paragraph form? Do they require keywords? How many keywords? So try to follow that, and then you should try to find out who is the editor of the journal. Very important. Maybe the editor of the journal is working in the same area, or the you can say the main topic of your paper. So you should try to read his publication as well. And it has been observed that um, if you are ready with your paper and then you go for the editor's papers which he has published, if you find any of the paper which is relevant to your paper or your title, you should try to refer that, you can say, the publication. You should try to go for it. I recommend you to write about three citations. That will be good. Then you can cite some of the papers from the journals as well. Maybe the same journal might have published some of the papers which are relevant to your topic. So don't forget to cite those papers, and cite some papers from the same journal where you are going to submit your paper. Okay, so the you read the articles from the journal, you read the articles of the editor, and then you cite the articles of the editor, you cite the articles from the same journal. So this is the key, you can say, key to get your papers through the first screening process, which is the DEX rejection. You will not get DEX rejection if you follow these submission, you can say, the if you will remember these points. And then there are some of the submission processes, like the manuscript central is there, then scholars one, editorial manager. So different publications, they have their own criteria for accepting the paper. So this is also a learning process. You should learn the process, read it, what is the word limit, what are the different sections that they require to be there in the final paper. So these are some of the very important point when you submit your research paper. This is all about starting a research paper, and to start your first research paper, these are some of the important points that you should remember. If you follow these points which I have mentioned here in the slides, I'm sure that you will be able to start your first paper. You will be able to get it published and through, um, and not with much difficulty, I believe. Best of luck for your publication, best of luck for your research. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.